So I would like to welcome everyone, especially the followers from the Mind Oiler and then from Lifespring Konseling. So hi everyone. My name is Audrey. I'm a clinical child psychologist. And today I have my very beloved friend, colleague, just a good friend to have lunch with, Kevin Yao from Lifespring. Kevin, would you kindly introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kevin. I was born and bred in Hong Kong, and I work in Jakarta, and I'm part of the team in Lifespring Care and Counseling Center. I'm a psychotherapist, and that's why I'm part of the team.
Yay! So, just some backgrounds. We definitely, yes, we are counselors. We worked together for some few cases. We are very interested in traumatology. We work a lot with people with trauma, and then most of the time we enjoy working with people with trauma, and then we learn a lot from them. But just to give a disclaimer, we will not give any, this will not be a replacement of any counseling or any professional help. We, both of us are here just to give psychoeducation. Maybe you or maybe people you love or maybe people that you care experience trauma. And we would like to give a little bit of something in a nutshell, maybe, Kat, right?
Right.
So, and then people will start to be able to see, am I experiencing this, or is my spouse experiencing this, or maybe my friend is experiencing this, and then where should you go and seek for help? So this definitely will not replace any counseling, any psychological sessions, any psychotherapy sessions, definitely not. Okay, so
yes. And we're raising awareness. So hopefully after this session, people can be more aware of issues. And maybe people might like to know more about Lifespring Care and Counseling Center, which is a non-profit organization. We provide a safe place for people to come and talk about their issues. Some people with depression, with confusion over the career, with family issues, or even some children guided by their parents would come over to Lifespring to talk about their issues. We have child psychologists, just like Audrey, she's one. And we have some guidance counselors, some therapists who are very experienced with working with family dynamics. So for me, I'm a foreigner. I'm not the only foreigner in Lifespring. We have people from Vietnam, from Germany, and I mainly work with partner organizations to provide services to refugees population, people coming from Afghanistan, Sudan, or elsewhere.
Yes, thanks for that, Kevin. So as you guys know, that's why we are having this talk. Usually my talk will be mostly in Bahasa, but I think I will be laughing for the full 1 hour if Kevin is speaking in Bahasa. But have no doubt, he does speak Bahasa.
Yeah.
Would you like to say something? Apa kabar, Kevin?
Baik, terima kasih.
Kevin suka makan apa kalau di Indonesia?
Suka makan soto ayam.
Soto ayam. Pete suka nggak, Kev?
Pete dikit aja.
Dikit aja.
Jangan banyak.
Okay, so now you guys have a little bit of glimpse of why am I experiencing this kind of laugh, and I will not do this talk in Bahasa because I will be laughing for the 1 full hour, and that's not really good.
And I will be scratching my head for the 1 whole hour. So
but
that's good.
It would be a 1 hour of Indonesian session. That would be nice for you, right?
Right. For me to learn Bahasa more.
Right. Maybe those people who would like to help you with Bahasa can give you a DM or something. But let's talk about you moving back to Hong Kong. How is this like that's why we're having this talk. Like, you experience a lot of a sudden movement, I guess. Me personally, I've heard about your stories of moving a sudden movement. Like, I even there, like we're there, like sort of there,
Right.
on your trip, moving back to Hong Kong, doing your 14 days of quarantines, and how does that feel for you?
Well, I didn't think about going back to Hong Kong until the very last minute. I was thinking,
Yeah.
if there's a place that is safe, Indonesia should be one, because there is so much food in Indonesia. And if there is quarantine or anything, we should be fine. But I was talking to some friends at that point,
Yeah.
and some friends from embassy says half of the people were gone. So I started to panic. Why are all the people leaving? So
You mean the Hong Kong people?
not just the Hong Kong people. I have friends from embassies elsewhere, different countries.
Right,
And then
right.
they say half of the people are either planning to leave or they're leaving. So I was
Okay.
shocked. So in the
Right.
morning, I told people I was not leaving. In the evening, I heard the news. I suddenly thought I should leave. So
Right.
Hong Kong started all those quarantine measures. I was so not ready to be quarantined. I never had quarantine. So I was quite shocked. I was not ready. And within 2 or 3 days, I just had to pull out.
And then you just decided, and then all those things happening in the airport. You don't even know whether you can fly or not, and what's happening. What are you going to experience when you arrive in Hong Kong? So how do you feel about that?
I was a bit scared because I had my routines in Indonesia, and I was really scared. And all of a sudden, things had to change. I think I'm quite flexible, but at that point, I was just not ready what was going on. I never had quarantine. I didn't know where to find food. I didn't know what to put on for protection gear when I fly. So to be honest, I was a bit anxious deep down me. What helped me was that I asked for help. I asked whether I should come back, and whether my parents could help me, my relatives. I asked you for advice. I see that you were also on a trip at that time. You were hoping to go somewhere. So I was talking to you. And eventually, when I went back to Hong Kong, I set up some routines so that, I feel like, okay, I'm still the Kevin I used to be in Jakarta, even though now I'm back in Hong Kong with everything different after a year.
Right. And talking about this, like, people are experiencing a lot of things. Since on that day that I told you about going to the airport, I have never touched airport yet, but I do not know how would I feel. I mean, during those situations, I experienced something, and what we might call, how do you feel? Like, was it a traumatic thing? Because I mean, like, during this kind of pandemic, like you say, you have never experienced being on a quarantine. You have never experienced, or you don't even know what is happening within that 14 days. And yes, Kevin has passed all those 14 days. If you see his Instagram, he's walking around the place with beautiful greens all over those places. So how do you feel that? Do you feel it's a traumatic event, or how was it? And then how does it affect you?
For me, it was a critical stress event, and I would say bordering trauma. Trauma, by definition, is something very disturbing, something too disturbing that it disturbs your functioning. It causes you to lose the sense of control. You normally feel comfortable, you feel that you can solve problems, but when certain events come, a trauma comes, you felt like, I cannot do anything. I don't have any means to handle. So that's when trauma comes. And by book definition, trauma would be something that is very life-threatening. It almost feels like you are going to die. But that also means trauma could mean different things to different people. This thing could be a trauma for me, but maybe for you who is brave, maybe this is not a trauma.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is something, I never thought anything would go into a coincidence. So this brings me into what you say, oh, if I'm brave, I will not experience that. Well, I personally experienced something like a recall of a sort of like a small traumatic event for me. So I was like last October, last fall, I went to the Netherlands. I was riding a bike, but a different kind of bike riding kind of standard in the Netherlands and here in Indonesia. So I was riding bicycle, and it's like, and just long story short, I fell. And then I hurt myself, and then there was like me over here, and then like big buses and everything just on my left and stuff. And then I bumped my head to a big truck. So that was horrible for me. And then I think it was yesterday afternoon. So I was just walking around my complex, and then I met my brother and my nephew, and he was riding a bicycle. And I did not think about that traumatic event. So I'll just ride on a bicycle. And then the moment that I need to ride on a something, I don't know what's that called in English, but we have polisi tidur. Do you know what polisi tidur? Like
the
something is that, anybody can help me what's polisi tidur?
Right.
I would appreciate that.
It's not the sleeping police. It's the bump.
No.
The hump
No.
on the road.
Yes. So, and then the moment I saw that, it was just all those memories of me falling down, my knees bleeding, a bump, yes, and then I bumped my head, like literally my head and all over my mouth are bumping to the truck side. And then over there, if I bump to the truck and I am the one who was bumping myself to the truck, if there is something with the truck, I need to pay them. Like, so it was just all over. And that very one click of moment, it's just all over. Those memories are just coming back, and I feel all some, like cold breathing on my head. I was like, what is this? And then I just realized it's traumatic for me.
Right. Sometimes we don't know. I mean, we normally think of trauma as something very big, like war, like earthquakes. When I was in the Philippines, I worked with people who survived typhoons. They lost their family members. Like, catastrophes, like terrorism, like bombs. These are some of the things that my clients would experience. But the smaller events, like being dumped by your girlfriend or boyfriend, or like divorce, like being laid off, could be as traumatic.
Yeah. So traumatic, it does not mean if it's traumatic for you, it's not traumatic for me, or it can also be traumatic for you and also for me. People experience different things, which in our traumatology study, we call that big T and small t, like big trauma or small trauma, where like what Kevin said, a big trauma is like you've been abused, like sexually abused, or you've been beaten, or you experience your house is burning down, your house burned down, or maybe you experience all those things. Or it can be like small trauma that is like what Kevin said, it's just not comfortable for you. It's just you experience so much uneasiness of experiencing that, and you personally do not take that as comfortable.
And also it's an accumulation of those small T's, small traumas. It's not just one-off, but it's an accumulation of it. And maybe your experiences, your perception were not ready. You were so shocked. You didn't expect those things to happen. And all of a sudden, you just could not cope. So those small T's accumulated could act as much as a big T. So it depends on who is handling or coping with these incidents, these issues.
Right. Which is in child psychology, we call it developmental trauma. Like small things, when I cried, when I fell down, and then suddenly my parents say, "Oh, you're such a weak boy. Come on, you don't cry." I mean, we do not know during those periods of time, they really need us. They need our support. They need our guidance to see that I can handle this. that this
Yeah.
is safe for me. I can do it. And then that we called, in child psychology, we call it developmental trauma. Even we see a natural birth is also a traumatic event as well, where we as a baby, we are inside that watery area. We just, it's just water, and then the moment that your water breaks, and then you start to experience, oh, this is not water anymore. This is very cold. That water have a certain temperature that can cause also small T's, like small developmental trauma. And then maybe when you are born and then it was really hard, the process is really hard, and you are being suctioned. That is also a traumatic event as well. How do you call that in adult psychology? Is it also developmental trauma?
And complex trauma. And actually,
Complex trauma.
I would argue that developmental trauma or complex trauma could be actually much more impactful on the person, because developmental trauma happens when the person's brain is not mature, it's developing. So when the brain is still developing, these trauma could affect how the neurons grow, how the brain
Exactly.
is wired, and something could go wrong in the process if there is continuous trauma, and the trauma is issues of trust. If people are abused emotionally, are neglected or rejected, then they would feel different. And actually, that was the time when the brain needs a lot of love for growth, and certain connections are not making in the brain.
Right. What we call would be in attachment issues, there will be lack of engagement. Like I feel like I could not engage, that I cannot trust someone else with my feelings, with even with me being myself. I could not trust that to other people. When I become vulnerable, people do not take that positively.
Right.
So I might as well be brave, even when I feel sad, even when I don't feel well. I'll just pretend I feel well, because
Right.
what I learned when I was young, that when I feel weak, when I express that I need help and I need support, people turn me down. So I don't experience that as safe enough to express those things. What do you think?
And now you remind me of a client that I have, that he was abused by his father, and he was always locked in a dungeon, in a small room, in darkness.
Yeah.
And whenever the father comes in, the father beats the child and keep up saying very hostile words, very abusive words. So that person, after coming to Indonesia, having gone through a lot of threats from the Taliban, having escaped war, having gone through the rough sea to be able to arrive, he's married. But at some point, he would have emotional outbursts. He would just suddenly become so violent. At one point, this person even cut the hair of the wife when the wife was sleeping. So that outburst comes without the person wanting to have, and that's why the title is "I love you, but I can't help beating you. I can't protect you from myself."
Right. Yeah, those are in severe cases. But what I experience, and I also experienced those in the less severe cases, but not saying that it does not have that much impact on other people. Like what you say, I love you, but I cannot. Like, I love you, but I cannot get intimate with you, because I experience when I get intimate with other people start to use me.
Right.
I love you, but I cannot trust my feelings with you. So yes, I always have to be brave in front of you, because I've trust my feelings to someone else before, and it does not turn out well. So whenever that we call that avoidance attachment. So whenever I start, because from the previous developmental trauma or complex trauma, I experienced that when I get close to someone, people push me away. So I'd rather push them away first before they push me away. If I push you away, that's on my side, right? But when you push me away, that's on me. I've been pushed, right?
Have you watched It's Okay Not to Be Okay?
I have not. Would you like to share with us what's that?
Well, that reminds me of Kim Soo-hyun, who really needs a lot of love. You know, the main character, the handsome guy. He really needs a lot of love, but then he doesn't admit it. And he is so afraid to be in love. And that is exactly what you're saying, because there was no love to be shown to him when he was young.
Oh, I've never watched that, but I believe those people who are watching us would be, was that a Korean movie, like a Korean series?
It's a Korean series and it's ongoing. It's already going to the 9th episode or 10th. So right now,
I did not know that you were watching Korean series, Kevin. Is that what happened with the lockdown? Is that what happened when you do in self-quarantine?
You know what? I do pick series to watch, and this is related to psychological topics, which really appeals to me. So people have to watch and look at it with more awareness. Don't just look at the faces, look at the reactions, and look at what it means.
Right. So who is that? Oiling said, yeah. So whoever that, well, seriously, guys, this is a little bit shocking for me, because I know Kevin does not watch Korean movies as far as I know, but this kind of pandemic changed him a little bit. I want my friend back. I cannot relate